Hello, I am Joseph Carlson, and this is episode 136 of Gaming with Grief, and I'm calling this episode Holiday Monster. But I want to remind you guys that this podcast will hit my website, www.gamingwithgrief.com, Monday morning at 7 a.m. Please go there, leave a comment, let me know what you think of the show, what I can do to improve. If you have a suggestion, you can leave it there. Or you could subscribe to the podcast on Apple iTunes or the Google Play Store. Please go there, give me the likes, the stars, the subscribes, things like that. Let me know what I can do to improve. Or, again, if you have a suggestion on what you want me to do with the show, like a topic or something, drop it there. You can also write me an email at gwgpodfellows at gmail.com. That's gwgpodfellows@gmail.com. Go there. Leave me an email. Let me know what you think of the show, or if you have a topic, again, something you want me to talk about. And you can find me on Twitter at JustLittleJoe. So, I'm calling this episode Holiday Monster because, well, it's the holidays, and I'm planning some end-of-the-year stuff that I'm planning for whatever, so I don't really have a review this week, but I do want to talk about holiday depression and how that pertains to grief, because obviously I've experienced the holidays and I've experienced grief, and I know what it's like when the loved one that you care about very deeply is not around. I know it's been really rough on me because my parents aren't around, and even if I'm an adult with a family, with my wife, my parents, I would still get a phone call from them. Maybe we would hang out. I'd see my mother. We'd hang out with the family. We'd see how everything was, how we were doing. We'd talk to each other. We'd exchange some gifts. And my father would usually come over and watch some movies on Christmas Day. He was a big Beatles fan. And there's a new documentary called Get Back that is on Disney Plus. And I know he would have loved it. And I've been thinking about that a lot about, I haven't watched it yet, but I can't really share it. Not that I can't share it with my wife or anything, but like my dad is the reason why I like the Beatles. He told me about them, and I bought albums for him when I was young, the Beatles, and then I took all the albums and listened to them, and he did not, because I basically just had a CD player, like a single CD player with the headphones, and he could never listen to them again because I was listening to them so much. I took and I ended up just buying them for me because I told myself, well, I'm just buying these for him, and then I ended up, again, listening to them so much that, I just ended up listening to them. So it's sad that I can't go, hey, come over and watch this incredibly long documentary on the Beatles, because he would just sit here and drink coffee and smoke cigarettes and watch the thing, and now, since the holidays on the weekend, we have a little bit more time, so we probably could have gotten through all those. But I was thinking about it a lot. A lot of people are dealing with, especially with the COVID, the coronavirus, that maybe a lot of people are just isolating at home, or, you might have COVID and have to isolate so you can't spend time with your relatives, which is terrible. And so I picked some articles from different resources. The hospicefoundation.org published an article on the 3 C's for holiday grief. They basically said what I just said, that sometimes it's rough to... there's no author given to this. I think it was probably written by the staff. And I don't know what day this was published. But I do think they call it the 3 C's for the holidays. I'm not going to read the whole article, but I will say... these are recommended by grief expert Kenneth J. Doka, who has a PhD. I guess he's obviously a psychologist or whatever. Doesn't really say that. But there's one: choose. The 3 C's of holiday grief are choose, communicate, and compromise. I will say the choose part, I understand it. Like, hey, if you don't think you can go somewhere or do something, or you don't want to be around a particular group of people, it's maybe too painful. Maybe you lost a family member and the rest of the family says, hey, why don't you come over anyway? And it might be in the same place that the loved one died, and you may say that I can't do that. I can't be there where my mom died or whatever, or my father or whoever, But I will say the other two that I think are pretty important here are communicate, and I think this is important, so I'll read this. The second C is communicate. So the first one was choose. Obviously, choose what you can do and where you can go and who you can be with. And the second one is communicate, which I guess would be clear, but I'm going to read what it says. It says communicate. Discussing your choices with others, especially those affected by them, is important. They have needs as well. There's ways of dealing with grief. their way of dealing with grief may be different. June, for example, talked with her sister-in-law, explaining her feelings, and asked if she could make a decision that day. Once her sister-in-law understood June's feelings and needs, she understood June's need for flexibility. Traditions may come into play because they involve choices. Communication about them is also important. The Smith family, for example, had a long discussion about how to handle the Christmas tree following the death of one of their children. So what I took from reading this, is basically just, obviously communication is important in your life, and if there's people that it's really rough to be around, maybe not them, but at the house or the location because of what happened, you just need to tell them that and tell them, this is why I can't do this, instead of being quiet. Again, I've been to some therapy, and I did some of these things when all the grief happened in my life. Or actually, I didn't communicate, and that was a problem. You shut down emotionally, you don't talk to people, and nobody knows what's going on. When really you can just say, this is how I'm feeling. And my wife did ask me before Christmas, I'm recording this the day after Christmas, and my wife asked me, are you doing okay? And I told her about the Beatles thing, and then with my dad, and just calling my mom and seeing how my mom's doing and spending time with her. We would usually have a cup of coffee, talk about the year and how crazy it was, and then open gifts, make each other laugh. She would always give me socks. I need socks this year, so I got to go buy socks now. All my socks, I have one pair of socks that don't have holes in them, so that was depressing. My mom would give me socks, and it's weird when you get older, you're excited for socks. But anyway, so yeah, communicate with people around you and just tell people how you feel. It's hard, but if you do that, you might have a better holiday. So the second C is compromise. So this goes a little bit into the first two, but it says each person deals with loss in his or her own particular way, and therefore has different needs. There is no right or wrong way to grieve. Leaving space for compromise is important. For example, some people in the Smith family saw the Christmas tree as an important tribute to their late son and brother. Other family members felt it was disrespectful. They talked through each point of view and decided to have a small tree, not in the central living room, but in the family room. Those who wanted to help decorate could, but those who could not would be respected. Nothing changes the fact that holidays can be especially difficult while grieving, but if you choose your actions, communicate your choice to others, and find suitable compromises, you may find that you become bearable and that you have renewed strength and hope. I think this kind of feeds into the second point of just talking to people around you, saying, I don't like that, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't, and some of those compromises have changed, obviously, with time. There used to be things I wanted to do on the holidays, like, I had to drink a lot of coffee, which I still drink some coffee, but not as much, or stuff my mom would do. She would make salsa and stuff, and I would eat an exorbitant amount of salsa and chips on Christmas, which is weird, but it just reminded me of my mom, and I don't really do that anymore. And some of that, it's okay, and it gets a little bit easier to deal with these things or process them through time. You can, again, tell people and communicate how you feel, and some things aren't as pressing as they used to be. But some people need that. They need the ritual. That was something I didn't. There was a lot of articles that I read finding this one about how ritual was important, about maybe lighting a candle or writing a letter to someone you care about and doing it every year on the same day, obviously the holidays like Christmas, and how important that was, because it basically set up a new ritual, because the holidays is, even if you're not religious, is kind of about, it's about ritual and doing the same thing over and over again, the same time of year, stuff like that. And that pretty much sums up that article. The next article I wanted to read is from the Sacramento Bee. And this woman is basically sharing her story of loss. It says, the grief that I feel during Christmas time is a welcome reminder of love and loss, by Robin Epley on December 24th. So a few days ago, 2021. Her mother died in April of 2019, and her grandfather died. I don't know if she says the date of January of this year, so 2021, so the beginning of this year. So he had Edward. He died from pancreatic cancer. Her mother died of a heart attack. Obviously, out of the blue. She didn't know. She talks a lot about her family here. She comes up with this. She shared it from someone else, but there's this idea of a ball where it just feels too heavy and it weighs you down. But like the more time goes on, maybe the ball weighs less, and that ball is supposed to be grief. But I've heard a lot of analogies to characterize grief and things, and I don't know. Maybe I haven't found one yet that really that really hit me. But there was this part in the article that I really liked. You know, it was nice for her to talk about her mother and grandfather and obviously what they meant to her. But this is what she says, like midway through the article. She says, when my mother died, and again with the death of my grandfather, I noticed that there are two types of people in the world. Those who have experienced loss and those who have not. In the early days of grief, I sought out the former for comfort. We were all part of the same horrible club now, and I found that there is an inherent empathy with that group that cannot be taught, only earned. And I'm reminded of this because I think my father died. A friend of mine, Ben, who I've talked about on here, who died in 2018 of glioblastoma. He did try to empathize with me and talk about how he kind of understood what I was going through, but he had a completely different example. Both his parents were alive, and I think he equated it basically to having a rough day at work. Now, I don't think he had any malice or whatever, but I think, I was in a bad place, and I was with another friend. There was three of us. We were sitting there having a couple beers, and I think he said, it's comparable. And I remember another friend of mine driving me home saying, that's not really the same thing. And I kind of felt the same way. It's not, But, your friend's trying to be there for you. They're trying to tell you stories. They're trying to be thoughtful. But yeah, I think, I don't know if I'm going to read her ball story on here because I think it, I don't know. It didn't really hit for me, but I do like this. I'll read the last two paragraphs of this story because I do like it. I often share this concept, the concept of the ball, with people I see experiencing loss and grief because nearly 3 years down the road, I often find myself more able to comfort than needing to be comforted. My Christmas wish for you is that you also reach this place someday, and I hope you remember that it's possible to simultaneously grieve and find joy in the holiday season at the same time. And I have to say that is true. It is hard to think of, I'm sad that my parents have passed and that I've lost children, but it was nice to see my relatives and them talk about their families, and kids were running around, and it was great. My cousin just has a 3-month-old, 4-month-old. He's about a year now. He's walking around, and he's a big chunky baby, and he's all smiles, and it was kind of nice to see him run around. I also got to see my nephew a few days ago. We went to the Christmas event nearby where they lit up the fairgrounds, and he held my hand. My wife said it made her a little sad, but it was nice to sit there and hold hands. He's like, "Oh, Uncle Joe, hey," and he'd like grab my hand, so that was kind of nice. So, the last paragraph article says, "I'm crying a little right now as I write these words. The memories have made the ball large again." So the ball of grief. Birthdays, holidays, and anniversaries never fail to increase the size of my grief too, but I'm grateful for the blessings of life, full of love and loss. Christmas time, with all of its memories and anniversaries, fills me with gratitude for what I have, what I have had, and all the wonderful things yet to come. And that's pretty true. That's kind of what I feel. The idea that, this isn't great, but I'm still getting new memories. I'm, still experiencing new things with my wife. We're still having great times together. I think it's really great. So the last article I'm going to read is from Vitas Healthcare. It's just vitas.com. There's a tip line, well, not a tip line, I guess you call them for healthcare, but this has to do with the new year. And I want to bring this up because this episode will come out, before the new year. So, there's a lot in this article, and I'm not going to read everything. It's pretty chunky. I will say there's tips on here that are bullet pointed, and I'll go through these, and I think these are pretty important. So, tips for facing the new year with grief and everything is begin by getting needed rest. If you're still exhausted from caregiving or from acute grieving, focus on physical recovery. consider talking to your doctor about how to rebuild yourself physically. And I think that's a big deal, just getting a good night's sleep. You can just kind of face the day a little bit differently. And as I get older, sleep becomes very important. So, yeah. Give yourself a mental rest. Replace negative thoughts with positive affirmations about yourself and soothe yourself with music, prayer, uplifting literature, tears, and laughter. So, yeah, I mean, I think the tendency sometimes if you're grieving, obviously, is to kind of, we talk about the holidays and depression, is to kind of find yourself in a hole and just to keep staying in that hole. And I'm just going to stay here. I'm not going to communicate with anybody. I'm just going to go about my way. But it is okay to take a break. It is okay to stop reading about grief. It is okay to stop looking at photos of people that have passed and feeling sad. It is okay to watch a comedy, spend time with your loved ones, engage, like make each other laugh, read a trashy novel. There's a lot of great like dime store style novels out there that you can read that really don't, what am I reading? Somebody, the detective gets the bad guy and whatever. It's like all that stuff doesn't matter, but it's a great way to just mentally rest and recharge so you can focus on what really is important, which is, your family now. Pay attention to hope and desire. Find small practical ways to give yourself new pleasures. Yeah, find new hobbies, new ways to plug in, stuff like that. I do pick video games sometimes in this where I'm like, I just want to play a game. I've talked about it several times, but Marvel's Avengers is the best 6 out of 10 game that no one is playing. I don't think I like that game so much because when I deal with the grief and play a game for the website and it's very, down and somewhat depressing or whatever because they're always talking about love and loss and grieving because those are the type of games I play obviously for the podcast. I will play Marvel's Avengers afterwards just to clean my palate and turn the sound off and listen to music or a podcast about gaming or something or a news, whatever, and just punch robots in Avengers because you don't have to think about it. I played it so much. There's not a clock on the PS4, but I've spent a lot of time playing it. And so that's a good way to like recharge for me to play something that's completely doesn't have to do with love, loss, grieving, all that kind of stuff. So that's, I like doing that. The next bullet point is attend a support group or talk with friends and family members who can listen and share memories. I mean, my wife and I do that all the time about, did your dad really drink that much coffee in the holidays? Yes, it was amazing the amount of coffee he could drink, and yeah, my mom made taco pie for Christmas, but it was great. It was a pie of tacos. And I know, people may think that that's somehow sacrilegious for a taco or a pie, but it was really good. I liked it. The next bullet point is seek spiritual support from a local minister, rabbi, priest, or imam. I would say, yeah, if that is something that you need or help you need, do that. I can't really speak to that. I'm not religious. But if you need to talk to somebody who's gone through it, I think I just reach out to my therapist and say, hey man, I need to talk or something like that. And my wife will say sometimes we rotate through sessions back and forth. Like if my wife's feeling like she needs extra help or just another, someone to listen that is trained, she'll take a therapy session. And then maybe the next time I'll take a therapy session and then we'll come together and talk about stuff. But yeah, so if you need to take a break, take a break. I guess, and talk to someone. Again, I've talked about it a lot. Talk to someone that has been trained to deal with stuff like this, whether it be a priest or a therapist. I recommend a therapist. It's a long thing to get into, but I think therapy is pretty important. So find courage to live. This is the last bullet point. Find courage to live into the future by living in the present one day at a time. Do the best you can to care for yourself and others today. And there is this tendency sometimes to get stuck in the past and you don't know how to feel. You don't know what to do with your feelings and how to feel about them. And it is terrible sometimes. And you think to yourself, I can't ever see myself getting out of this. But I think if you take one moment at a time and just try to stay relaxed and really focus on, there's got to be somebody in your life. Like my wife is obviously very important to me. And so it's easy for us to do things together to just stay focused and do it that way. So yeah, I know the holidays are hard for a lot of people, and especially again if you're dealing with grief or any kind of loss, or maybe you're again, isolated today for quarantining, or just in general, like maybe you've lost someone because of COVID and you're not allowed to maybe grieve with your family because, I've read tons of stories of because of protocols, memorial services are either pared down or socially distanced over Zoom or something to mitigate what's going on. And that could change how you grieve, and it may not work for you. You may need to see people and be in a group and want to share stories of the deceased, and you can't do that for reasons, for medical reasons. So if you're going through that, I'm sorry. If you want to talk to somebody, there is the NIMBY, it's okay to not be okay. Go there, call someone. There's a suicide prevention line. I mean, there's tons of resources out there. Don't feel afraid to talk to someone, tell someone how you feel. And, I don't know, just be safe, be kind to one another. And, it'll be a new year soon. I actually like the new year. I know a lot of people think it's silly or whatever to have a resolution. I like literally taking stock of myself over the new year and deciding what I want to do and how I want to be a different person, or hopefully a better person through the new year. So I think that's it this week, guys and gals. I hope you enjoyed this. I want to remind people that this podcast will hit my website, www.gamingwithgrief.com, Monday morning at 7 a.m. Go there, leave me a suggestion, a comment, stuff like that. Or you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple iTunes or the Google Play Store. Go there. Let me know what you think of the show. Leave me the likes, the subscribes, the stars, all that kind of stuff. The ratings. And you can write me an email at gwgpodfellows@gmail.com. So go there, leave a comment, what you think of the show, how you heard about the show. That'd be great to hear where my audience is coming from. And also you can find me on Twitter at JustLittleJoe. So with that, everybody, I think that's it for this week, and I will talk to you guys again in the new year next week. Bye.